This show is not intended for the politically correct or the closed-minded. Enter at the risk of opening your eyes. You have been warned.
Why does the media attack an issue? To get primetime ratings?
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A moment comes when we step out from the old to the new, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
To kind of catapult the propaganda.
You are listening to Open Eyes with your host, Ira Robinson. From the normal to the paranormal, from government cover-ups to the depths of our consciousness, we aim to explore all things. From the dawn of prehistory to current events, no topic is forbidden and nothing remains hidden.
No more secrets.
Open your eyes and open your mind to the fact that life as we know it is not as we have been taught. Join us at latenightinthemidlands.com or openeyesnetwork.com as we take this brief journey through the depths of the cosmos and explore what it really means to be human.
Many peoples have sacrificed their liberties, only to learn to their sorrow that deceit and mockery, poverty and tyranny are their reward.
Whether you're online or offline, intercontinental or intergalactic, hello and welcome to Open Eyes. It is a Friday. We are live. We are in person with you, and hopefully you guys are ready for a really good show. I've got a really interesting guest coming on tonight. We'll bring her on here in just a moment, but don't forget that if you guys want to go to the archives of all of our shows, you guys can go to our website, openeyesnetwork.com. We're also live streaming right now on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. Come on over there, join in with us, and don't forget as well, though, as always, we are in the chat room at LNMRadioNetwork.com. And while you're over there, hit that subscribe button. Keep us on the air. We are listener supported, as you guys are very well aware. And yeah, we need your help to keep on broadcasting out. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button over there at LNMRadioNetwork.com. It is, again, a Friday night, and if you guys want to call in and join us, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Our Skype line is JDA Film. Tonight we have Kade Cook coming on. She's an author, and a very, very good author. I like the work that she's doing so far. And she's going to come on tonight and talk to us about her writings, her ability to write, the things that she does to write, kind of get into the whole writing motif and being an author and all of that kind of good stuff. And she's going to be on with us for a little while, and I'm looking forward to it. So, Kade, welcome to Open Eyes. It is so great to have you here tonight.
Hi, Ira. How are you doing tonight?
Fantastic, I think. At least I can't complain. If I did, it doesn't do me any good anyways.
Nobody's going to listen anyway.
So. Exactly. That's right. So why don't we get started a little bit by having you tell the people a little bit about yourself. Who are you and all that kind of good stuff?
Well, I'm from the Great White North of Canada, and I live on the East Coast in a little town called Shediac. And I'm just a good old gal from the country, and I'm a mom of 5, and
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How do you have time for anything?
few little monkeys running around here somewhere. So I used to be a computer nerd, and I used to do IT stuff, and then when I met my husband, we made the agreement that, I kind of decided if I'm going to have kids, I want to raise them, so that's what I'm doing now. And, somewhere in the midst of diapers and spit-ups and all that endless nights of no sleep, I decided to start writing.
Hey, that works. That works. You know, I've known a lot of people who have been writers that have found time between kids. I've got 3 myself. My oldest is older and out of the house and everything like that, but I have 2 that are here at home, and luckily they're in their teen years, so I can kind of kick them to their rooms to silence if I need to. But I know a lot of people. Yeah, she just whacked me on the shoulder, in fact. But I know a lot of authors out there that have little ones, a lot of little ones running around, and they have just 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there to write something down. And I gotta say, I have all props to people that can do that kind of thing.
Well, I have no idea really how the first book even happened, because I think my little one was, let me see, she's probably 3, and it doesn't really leave a lot of wiggle room to write too much down. But it happened, so, and it only took 5 months to write it, so.
Well, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
No.
My first book that I ever wrote was back during my teen years, and it took me almost 1.5 years to write it. And I'm at the point now where I can get out a book in about a month if I sit down and want to. It's kind of difficult sometimes because my eyes don't always want to agree with me, and well, I'm old, so my body doesn't always want to agree with me either.
No, you're not that old.
Well, I've reached the age. I've reached the age that I'm getting football injuries in my sleep.
Oh. Okay, you're old.
I leveled up to 47 over this past weekend, so.
Hey, you and I are the same age.
Hey, there we go. Okay, so I'm not old then. Okay, that works.
No, you're not.
That works.
No, I'm not. I don't think I'm old, so you're not old at all.
I always say you're only as old as you think you are, and I surround myself with people that think positively and lovingly and that kind of thing. And I'll tell you what, that really makes a big difference in how you feel about life in general, but about how you feel age-wise even, because
that's true.
Everybody
really
around
true.
you is in that kind of positive mood. It gives you that energy to keep going.
I do. I think you realize that when you hit a certain point in your life. You do. I think I have anyway, because I'm actually starting to do the same thing.
That is awesome.
It works.
It does. I actually do a show on Sundays with my co-host Maggie Hart. It's called the Positude Podcast, and one of the things I love about the show is that it sort of gives you that jolt at the first of the week to the shot of positivity in your arm, kind of, so to speak, because all we talk about on there is positive news stories and things to help people out and all of that kind of stuff. And I've noticed since I started doing that show that the energy that I have going through the rest of the week is actually really good comparative to how I used to be. It used to be kind of a struggle to get up every day and all that kind of stuff. You know how it gets sometimes. And now, I have no issues with it. If I have had enough sleep anyway.
Yeah, I hear you. I do hear. I don't think I've slept in, years. So, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all good.
Exactly. Well, so you're primarily a fiction writer, correct?
Yes. Right now, anyway.
For now, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done kind of a mix of both. I've done nonfiction and fiction, and I'm kind of focusing now more on fiction myself. But you do, basically, it's kind of in the speculative fiction genre, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So,
it's like I call it urban fantasy, because it's real life. I call it real life. It's dusted in magic. So,
I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to put it. With your stories, so the stories are in the Covenant of Shadows series, right?
Right.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about those books? Like what are they about?
Well, let's see. How do we start? Well, the first book, Gray, is it starts off with a young girl who, she works hard her whole young life, and she studies hard, and she's a nerd, and she doesn't quite fit in, and but she works hard, and she learns. She goes to school and becomes a psychologist. And of course, her father's a psychologist, so she kind of wants to live up in his shoes, and she sees how the good work he does, so that's where her focus is. And she becomes a psychologist earlier than most people do because she's her studies became her disease. And anyway, she's in her office and she's doing her thing, and she starts to see things that are odd and unusual, and then she realizes that maybe these are what people call auras. She had never really seen them before, but then she starts to see them, and then she starts to see people that no one else can see, and she thinks, like, instead of her being the one that helps other people, she's starting to think that she's the one who's going to start needing help because she thinks she's going crazy. And really what's going on is her eyes are awakening to the real world that she's from, and that her whole life has been nothing but a lie. And it's a really rude awakening for her, and it scares her nearly to death, literally. So that's how the first book starts out. And it's set in the real life, and all the places in these books I have been to, except for a couple, so they are real places. And it's just fictional characters that go through an adventure of opening up and learning about this new magical world that she's from, that she knew nothing about. So it's kind of a shocker.
So with the story, so she sort of is transformed from one place into our world. Is that kind of how it comes down, or is that kind of a spoiler alert?
No, she lives in our world. She's part of us. She thinks she's perfectly human.
Okay.
And it's just that she's been cloaked in a spell that doesn't allow her to see the magic and the stuff that the magical realm people, I guess you would say, they look normal to her, but when she realizes that they're more than what they are, it kind of starts freaking her out a little bit, and especially when she realizes what she is. So, which I can't tell you because
spoiler.
Yeah,
spoiler, exactly. So, okay, so the first book is Gray, the second book is Calico, right?
Yes, right.
So, the second one you just released a couple of months ago, right?
Yes,
November-ish, I think it was.
Yeah, it was November, I think it was, middle of November sometime. November sometime.
So when's the third one coming out?
Oh, what's that book about? It's just it's a continuation of the first book.
I was actually saying, when's the third one coming out?
Oh, I'm writing it right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I just finished 14,000 words. So it's on its way, you know.
Works.
I got to get myself buckled down to my seat, but lately things, life kind of gets in the way and interrupts and all that nasty stuff.
Yeah, I try to get at least 2,500 words in a day if I can, but if I don't, I'm not too disappointed in myself, but a lot of times I end up way overcoming it. I'll do 5,000 to 8,000 in a day, but I try to do that 2,500 as a minimum, or I feel guilty not doing it.
Oh my goodness. I can't even get close to that. I wish I could do that. My life would be much simpler if I could write that fast. Because they won't stop yelling at me, right?
Yeah.
And you know how the feeling is. You're in there and you got all these things going on in your head and you can't get them out fast enough.
Oh yeah. In fact, I'm kind of guilty when I was going to ask you as far as your methodology goes, but I'll throw it out here because it seems appropriate. When I used to do the beats, for the stories that I was writing, I just do kind of like a general outline of what I wanted to have happen in a scene, so at the end of the scene I want to have it be X thing ends up occurring or something along those lines, and sort of left to go at that as far as outlining goes. But the past two books for some reason have really overpowered me. The last one that I did, the Eternals game, ended up being a 17,000 word outline, and then this this one that I'm doing right now for the Black Rose Files Revenant story ended up being 12,000 words on the outline. And I'm like, no, don't do this, because every time that I end up doing it, it takes me a slower period of time to actually write the book because I've already basically written the book, and my brain's like, no, I've already spit this out. Why am I going back to this?
Yeah, no, but you know what? It's kind of helpful in ways. It is. I kind of do that. Like when I first started the first book, all three. Well, there's 4 books in the series, and all, like, for the first 3, all just came out almost at the same time. So I'm busy jumping because scenes are popping in my head left and right, and I'm writing them down because sometimes they just, you must have, I'm not sure if you do the same thing, but it's like a movie turns on and you just hurry up and catch up, right? You
it's
write
along
down what
those
you're saying,
lines, yep.
Because they do change their mind sometimes if you don't write them down, they'll change their mind and then they'll screw you right up.
Have you ever had a character go completely against what you have been intending for them all along?
Yeah, the last book didn't quite finish the way I wrote it the first time. That was interesting. Like the first time I wrote it, because I do an outline too, but mine is definitely not as detailed as yours. Not even by a long shot. Mine's maybe 2 or 3 pages of scribbles, and then I got the outline, and then the scenes would start, and then I have to figure out where the scenes would fit in the outline. And then, but this book, the second book I wrote it all out. I got the first draft done, and then you go through it to make sure you got to clean it up and the sentences make sense, and you don't, people are not looking at you like, what are they saying, because that's never good. But anyway, I'm going through, I'm cleaning it up, and I'm finishing the last chapter I wrote really, really quick because I just had to get it out. And then so when I went through the last chapter again, it completely changed the ending. And I'm like, what just happened here? Yeah, but I got really excited. I was more excited when I rewrote it and let the story just come out the way it wanted to, even though it was against the way I had written it the first time. It felt better. It felt like home. Do you know what I mean? So
I do.
Sometimes they do what they want, and if we stop getting in the way of the story, it comes out the way it needs to come out.
One of my stories, I've got 2 books written in the series. It's called the Kade Cook series. It's sort of a science fantasy series of books. The first book, Silent Steps, it came out like really quickly. I was able to write it within about a month and a half, which was the fastest to that point that I had actually written a full-on novel, and I was really proud of myself. But the second book continues the story on. There's a character that gets introduced in it named Sala, and this woman, I had her intended. She's sort of the antagonist of the story, at least for a good chunk of it, and she ended up, like, I had her written out in a certain way in the outline that I wanted her to be, X way, and had her developed, of course, but wanted her to attitudes and her motivations to be a certain way. Well, as I started writing the book, I started getting into the point where she, was becoming a bigger part of the story. And I realized that she had a whole other character with her that she wanted to bring with her. And I know for those that have never really written a book, or you guys aren't authors, you kind of hear us talking about this kind of stuff and are like, you guys are schizophrenic or something. But really, I mean, honestly, it's that way a little bit, but this character, Sala, she brought this other character, Nerys, who ended up becoming such a major part of the story that if I had never written her in, it would be a completely different feeling to the story. Like, it wouldn't have nearly as much depth or heart as it ended up having because of that character being there. But she never existed in the outline, and I never planned on her being there. Didn't even know she existed until Sala basically said, hey, look over here, there's this other person here that I'm bringing with me.
No, I get it 100%, because funny that you say that. You didn't even know that they were there. That's what happened with the second book as well. I'm writing along, and all of a sudden I'm starting to write this scene, and I'm going, what's going on? And the next thing you know, I have this character, and her name is Medora, and I'm going, okay, who are you? And why are you in my story? And the next thing you know, she becomes one of my most favorite characters. Like her wit, her spunk. I'm like, I don't know where she came from, but she did. And you're right. It, like some of these characters that you don't even know exist, they bring another level of depth and another level of compassion, and then they touch your heart, or they make you laugh, and you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? But it's such a blessing, you know?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's like with Voices Carry, which is that book that I'm talking about, the character Sala, you know, she's kind of this cruel person, and you don't really know, like in the original outline that I had, you never really understood why she was as cruel towards the main character as she ended up being. But with Nerys being there kind of as the standoff to her story, you start realizing, well, wait a minute, there's this whole other part of her backstory that actually, you know, you start to really sympathize for the villain, you know, in a lot of different ways. So that's cool, you know, when that kind of thing happens. But as an author, you know, I think a lot of authors, they do themselves a disservice when they do those really heavy outlines like I'm tending to do lately, because a lot of times if there are those kind of things there, we're not having a real chance to explore it. You know, it's difficult to explore. So I think there's something to be said for pantsing in a certain kind of direction, you know, because without it, you don't get a chance to kind of explore those things that might be there on the side.
No, exactly. That's what I mean. Like I said, I don't outline quite in depth like you do, and I think maybe that's how she snuck in there, because I know where I'm going. I call it my skeleton of my story.
Right.
I have all my bones. I know which way it's going. I know how it's going to end, but every time I sit down to write, I find new muscles, and I find new colored hair, and I find, I find all the little pieces and parts that go over the skeleton that fill it in, that make it whole. And you know, half the time, like I said, with my character Medora, I didn't know who she was. I didn't know where she was coming from. And now she's worked her way into the next book as well. So
she's becoming a big part of the arc and never actually existed in the original play.
Yeah, it's you know, writing is quite an interesting journey.
It's an adventure, I think, sometimes.
It is. But see, I kind of joke about it, because, you know, you think about it, you've got people talking in your head, and you're talking to them sometimes, you know, and you're like, what did you know, because I know when I sit to write down, sometimes I talk and go, what just happened? I talk out loud. So I tell people, I say, and, you know, this is just my opinion, because, you know, I'm not meaning any disrespect to anybody, but I'm thinking, you know, if I'm just running around talking to myself about invisible people and stuff, I'm crazy. There are people going to call me crazy. But if you write it down and you put it in a book and you publish it, you are an author.
Exactly. You know, right? One of the things I've always said is I hope that a law enforcement officer or something never looks into my browser history, because they're going to run across some really bizarre things, you know. But it's like I've got the perfect excuse. No, I'm a writer. I'm a writer. I'm just doing research. That's all. I'm not actually planning on murdering somebody and trying to dissolve them in acid. I'm not looking for that reason. You know?
Yeah, I know. I hear you. Yeah, it's probably best just to stay away. Don't open the doors to any officers at all.
Exactly.
No.
Well, okay. So now, with your publishing, now you're self-published person, right? You didn't go through the traditional route. Is that right?
Well, I did. I actually I always intended on going indie. I never really had any dreams of going published or whatever, but I did actually have a publisher at one point after I first wrote Gray. And I kind of, I hummed and hawed about it, and I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, I'm in these writer groups or whatever, and people are talking, and this one person says, "Hey, I have a small publishing company. Come check it out." I'm like, "All right, whatever." So anyway, long story short, I don't know if you believe in dreams, but I believe that dreams talk to you if you listen. And I had this dream that I saw my first book published with their emblem or their logo on the spine. And I'm going, okay, I'll try. I see the emblem. I'm going to try. I'm going to submit my story. And eventually, yes, they accepted it. And I got put under a contract, and I got my book edited. And then the day of release, they completely dropped the ball. They didn't do anything for the release. 2 weeks later, I get an email saying, "Sorry, we're closing. Here's your rights back. Too bad, so sad." So I'm going, what? So anyway, I picked everything up, got my rights back, and learned how to be an indie author in a hurry. And because I had a physical release launch party coming 2 weeks after I got dropped. So I had to figure everything out, get my book published, have it printed and sent before the launch. So I was a little stressed out, but I did eventually get to the indie part on my own. And you know what? I think I'm going to stay there for a while because the other part was so stressful and so disheartening that I'm good. I'm good being an indie.
I think I'm amongst the lucky ones as far as traditional publishing is concerned. The publishers that I've got, I've done both indie and traditional, and my publishers, Neely Worldwide Publishing, they're amazing people over there. I love them to death. They've always been so supportive of when I do launches and stuff. So I'm real pleased with it, but I know, like, hearing the horror stories from other people that have had those really bad experiences with the traditional publishers, I'm glad that I ended up running across them when I did, and that they accepted me. They're wonderful people, but for the route that I'm going at this point in time, because I know you're. For the listeners out there that aren't aware, both of us are members of a group called 20 Books to 50K, and that's where we encountered each other. And one of the ways that they've got things, kind of geared up is to publish things really rapidly. For most people, it works out to publish really rapidly once every month or a couple of months or whatever the case may be, whenever you can do it, really. But the point is basically to publish, as much as possible, knowing that, there's going to be a certain audience that's going to click into it and go that route. Now, the way that it's done is I think kind of antithesis of traditional publishing routes, because of the way that they have to do things in the traditional kind of realm of things. It doesn't work quite as well for this kind of methodology. So for the stories that I've got going on right now, the Black Rose Files is the current series that I'm working on, and they are kind of going to be geared towards that 20 books methodology. I'm going to be publishing them really rapidly, but what I'm going to do, I've already worked this out with my publishers, that the ebooks I'm going to do on my own, and then once I get a certain amount of kind of books lined up, like maybe every 2 or 3 that I publish, they're going to publish an anthology version in paperback and hardback to go that route. So I'm really lucky that I ran across these guys when I did, because they're willing to work with their authors with that kind of thing.
Oh, wow. That's really awesome. That's, I don't know. I wish I would have found a publisher like that, because I'm so scared now to even think about approaching a publisher that, I don't know. It makes me scared.
Well, yeah, you've been burned. I mean, I've been burned by traditional publishers before too, so I'm with you on that. And when I went with these guys originally, I mean, I was in it, just kind of dipping my toe in. Exactly. Just, okay, I'm going to take a chance with you guys. We'll see how it works out. And it ended up working out for the best. I mean, I know that there are so many others out there that have had really bad experiences, and I don't want to turn people off from trying to do the traditional publishing route, but I will say,
if it happens. It's just called life. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, But, I mean, yes, maybe eventually I will again. I think with the Covenant of Shadows series, that's going to be my series. And then maybe going forward when I maybe change to something else, whatever, because I've got, like, a few things floating around, maybe then I'll be brave enough, because I know there's good publishers out there. Like, you just attest to one yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all a learning curve. And I think sometimes people have to go through things to learn things. And maybe that's why I had to go through it, because I'm so much better for it, even though it was hard and it was disappointing. I have learned so much that it's, I don't think I've learned a lot compared to the 20 books to 50K, because those guys are just insane.
They're
with
killing
knowledge.
it, yeah.
But I've learned a ton of stuff from just, I don't really say a lot, but I'm a lurker.
Yeah, I'm there to learn by osmosis,
Yeah. Oh yes. And no, it's a great group, and I love when Michael comes on, and no, it's not Michael, is it?
Yeah, Michael Anderle.
Yes.
Yeah.
When he comes on and just goes, "Okay, guys, you know what? Smarten up, bugger off, be nice to people," and he just sets everybody right straight.
Yeah.
When some people get a little high on the hog or whatever, and he just look, everybody has their own way of doing stuff. Nobody's anybody than anybody else. Everybody has their own journey to take. Don't force your stuff down their throat. And I'm like, I like this guy.
Exactly.
I like this guy.
Yeah, I saw that post too.
He does it so politely. Like, he's almost telling you off, but he does it politely.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I can go with that. I'm good with that.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I think for me, the way that I look at things is it's important for authors to know both routes, both the traditional and the self-publishing, because somewhere in the middle, I think, is where people find the most success. Like they kind of maybe hybridize a little bit and they go one route with one direction and another route with another direction. But either way, even if you don't go in that way, I think knowing how it all works is still a really important thing for every author to know, even if you only go self-publishing, it's important to pay attention to what's going on in the traditional publishing world, because there are changes that are happening there that might impact the self-publishing world in the the coming years. So
exactly. Oh, I'm certain it will. I'm sure that somehow it'll become all meshed into one big bubble, and you'll know which side of the bubble to go on, and then how to talk the talk, and I think it'll all work out.
Exactly. And in the meantime, us authors are here just doing our thing and enjoying what we're doing. And I know I am, and it definitely seems like you are as well. You're enjoying the process of it all.
I actually, to tell you the truth, I've spent most of my life feeling like I'm lost, and I keep searching for something. I don't quite know what it is. You know what? I stopped searching, and I don't feel lost anymore, because I finally know why I'm here and what I'm supposed to do. So it's, for me, picking up a pencil and starting to write was the best decision I ever made.
That is awesome. Well, listen, Kade, let's go ahead and take a break here real quick. And when we come back, I've got some more questions for you. I've got a couple that have come in from the chat room for you. And we'll get right back on into it. How's that sound to you?
That sounds awesome.
All right, you guys are listening to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Tonight we're here with Kade Cook. She's an author, and a very, very interesting one at that. I'm loving her. So make sure you guys stay tuned. If you want to call in with any questions or comments or whatever the case may be, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Skype line is JDA Film. And as always, we're over there in the chat room at LNMRadioNetwork.com. Come on over and join in with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
You can listen to the LNM Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from LNMRadioNetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
Ben Franklin said, If you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today. Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com, because things really do need to change. Open Eyes seeks out the heart of matters, looking for explanations in places that most other radio hosts refuse to go. No subject is forbidden, and nothing remains hidden. Listen to Open Eyes on the Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Open minds, open hearts, open eyes. Have you ever heard of Audible? Audible is a website with hundreds of thousands of audiobooks. They're all high quality, easy to listen to, and, best of all, if you take advantage of a special deal that we've worked out for you, you can get one for free. That's right, a free audiobook of your choice in any genre, simply by going to audibletrial.com/openeyes and signing up for the free trial. It's simple to do, and it would support the shows that we bring to you, and hey, you get a free book out of the whole thing. So why not take advantage of it today? Go to audibletrial.com/openeyes and sign up for the trial.
Why subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands, you ask? Well, I'll tell you why. Late Night in the Midlands covers everything, and through the thousands of expert guests who have joined Michael Vera on his show, come pieces of the big puzzle, which started many years ago. Michael and his guest reveal information dating back to the beginning of time. To this very moment, Michael Vera not only brings you the best guests with the best information, but Michael is not afraid to call out those who are less than honest. You see, in this day and age, we need a radio show we can count on and a radio host we can trust to expose the truth one show at a time. So become a late nighter and subscribe now. Talk radio like no other. Late Night in the Midlands, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
From the author of Silent Steps and Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown, comes a story so chilling it will haunt you for years to come. Krista is a young woman escaping her past, running away from her family, her traumas, and her God, hoping to find a new life in a different town. But when she is forced to make a horrible choice, she comes to realize malevolent entities have controlled the true darkness she has been a part of. That is when her real terror begins. Penitence is disturbing and evocative. It will tear down the walls between what is real and what is nightmare. Penitence is the new novel by the man called the new master of speculative fiction, Ira Robinson. Find it and all of his books at his website, originalworlds.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. Tonight we're here with Kade Cook, and if you guys want to call in and join in with us, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Skype line is JDA Film, and as always, we're over in the chat room at LNM Radio Network.com, jamming out to a little bit of Pink Floyd there. I love Pink Floyd. Anyways, so welcome back, Kade. Thank you for sticking around through that break with us there.
Hey, it's my pleasure. No problem.
So before we hit the break there, we were talking a little bit about your writing style, some of the things that you've gone through. And one of the questions that came in from the chat room for you is, during your writing experiences, where do you find your inspiration for your characters, or do you just create them on the fly?
Well, I kind of have like a little pre-writing, I don't know, not tradition, but it's a kind of a, it's something I do before I sit down to write, and I always get on the treadmill and I put my headphones on and I walk or run or whatever. However, if I have energy, I run. If I don't have energy, I walk. And I let my body get busy, and then my mind kind of goes off. It's almost meditative, if you understand what I'm saying. Like,
I do.
I don't meditate, but to me that's meditating. And that's where I see my books transform. And like I said, that's where Medora came from that I didn't know. The whole idea started with one girl, and somehow I got 10 fellowships of different elemental magical families and the bad guy. And I busied my body and let my mind just do whatever. I daydreamed. And within those daydreams, that's where everything manifests and comes to light. And they pick their own names too as well. They not only appear out of my imagination who they want to be, they pick their own names, which is interesting as well.
I like when that kind of thing happens. You know, it always reminds me of the weirdness of the human brain named itself, you know.
Yeah.
When people think,
it's true.
You know, you don't really think about that. When you think about that, it's like, that is kind of weird to think about, isn't it?
It is. Like, it's fascinating almost. It's I get very excited when I get into my books. I leave this world that I know behind. Like, I'm not here anymore. I'm so engulfed in my character's world. I can feel it. I can smell it. And Gabriel's name wasn't Gabriel when I started out. It was something like Ryan or Orion or something like that. And every time I went to write it, I would type out this name, Gabriel, and I'm going, what is that? That's not Orion or Ryan or whatever her name was. And it happened over and over again. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then I went, wait a minute, I'll that'll be her name. And it never happened again. It always stayed that way. Like, she was telling me, no, that's the wrong name. So I'm like, okay, fine, you got it.
That works. Yeah, that's not too odd at all. You know, I've heard some really weird ones as far as you know, that people have dealt with things like they'll have, you know, a dream or something like that, and when they wake up, the name sticks with them, and they end up writing it down and all of that kind of stuff. You know, I've had some weird ones like that, but you know, for me, I'm kind of, I guess, most of the time more of a mechanical writer. Like, how do I explain this? So, okay, when I'm writing, I always sit down basically kind of like in the same place. I use a free write to write with. I don't know if you've ever heard about that. It's a little device. It's a device that it's kind of an electronic keyboard or a typewriter basically, but instead of using paper, it has an e-ink screen on it. So everything that you type, it goes into the e-ink screen, and then it uploads everything that you write as you type it onto the web to different backup locations. So like anything that I write, it's automatically backed up to like 6 different locations just because I type it on this device. It's great. It's expensive. I don't recommend it for everybody, but for me, it's a lifesaver because it's got the really bright backlight on it. And for my eyesight, I kind of need that kind of thing. But anyway, so I have this device and I put it right in front of me, and I know it's like I've trained my brain to know that when that thing is sitting in front of me, me and I have some music playing, it's writing mode time, and I'm just going to let it flow. So I don't always visualize everything. Like I don't see it in my mind. I don't hear them talking and that kind of thing, but it's more of a stream of consciousness thing. So once the words start just typing out, I disconnect, and it just flows. So yeah, it's sort of more of a mechanical process for me to get it all out, I guess it's kind of a weird way to go about explaining it, but that's sort of what it comes down to for me. So I know there are some that are kind of more visualizing it in their head. And then there are others that like hear the story being told to them. For me, it just pours out. So.
Well, you're lucky that way, because sometimes the images get lost in translation. And that's when I get a little frustrated sometimes, because I can see it so clearly and so plainly. And then when I go to type it out, I'm going, that sounds like crap. That's not even close to what it looks like or smells like. So it's, not all the time. Sometimes it just, like, when I get out of my own way and I just, like you, let the story come out and let your fingers do everything, and I stop interfering, it's a lot easier. But when it doesn't quite come out the right way, it gets a little frustrating.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I definitely know how that is. I go through that kind of thing all the time too. It's like sometimes when I'm writing, I'll interrupt myself because I'm trying to find just the right word, to put down. Yeah. And it's like that one little word, it's there and it's distracting me. It's not wanting to come out. And then it's, if I try to give it more attention, it ruins me. I'll have to get back into the flow again, and it takes me like another 10 minutes to get into it again. So a lot of times when I come into that kind of thing, I'll just put a couple of stars or something like that, and I'll come back to it later, knowing there's going to be something that needs to be there. But that's, it's just kind of my own method to do things. But I'm waiting, I said this before, I'm waiting for the day that they release the telepathic keyboards, because then I'm going to be flying. I'm going to be shining.
Oh, I cannot wait. When they do, you have to email me.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if you could just plug into your brain and just let do it?
Oh, it'd be awesome.
So much better.
It would be fantastic. It really would.
It would.
Be a lifesaver.
I would have like gazillion stories going. I don't know if they'd all make sense, but there'd be a few of them anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so changing pace here, maybe kind of getting into what you were just talking about a little bit. What do you find are your biggest trouble spots when it comes to writing? Like what is the most difficult part of the process for you?
Finding the time.
I was just going to say, with 5 kids, finding the time would probably be topping the list, right?
Yeah. Well, it's gotten better. Like, my youngest now is in school. So I'm finding that much, at least I can sit down and write like a coherent sentence without having to go back and fix it 5 times because I've had to go get toast or cake or a runny nose or, so that's kind of it's a nice, because I really, like I said before, I really disappear now. Like, so I can sit down as soon as the school bus is gone and I do my little walk and I sit down at 8 o'clock. If I can blink my eyes and the next thing I know, it's 12:30 and I'm like, oh, what just happened? But you got a lot of work done. When you sink that deep and you come out and you're so exhilarated and you finish a chapter or you got that thought in your head out and it is the way it's supposed to be. It is amazing.
That is cool. Another question came in from the chat room for you.
All right.
Let's see here. Daryl asks, when you first began to write your first novel, what was the situation or cause that created the first occurrence and why you continue to write?
What made me create my novel, basically, or what inspired
sort of, yeah.
start?
What inspired the first novel, I guess, is sort of what he's getting to.
Well, that's kind of a funny story. Sort of. Like I said, I used to be really smart once upon a time. I used to know big words and could say acronyms and stuff, words I didn't understand. Now I don't. I'm not that kind of smart anymore. I'm a different kind of smart, I guess I should say. And anyway, I get done being an IT person, and like I said, I got home and I had a teenager that I was raising, and then my husband and I decided to have a big family, and we had 4 kids really fast. Like within 5 years, we had 4 kids. So it was, I was just either pregnant or feeding kids or whatever, and I kind of lost who I was. Somewhere in there. Like I used to sing and I used to write songs and I used to play guitar, and I lost all of that, and I started feeling like I was being smothered within my own life. Don't get me wrong, I love my kids, I love my family, I love all of that, but I could feel that life spark inside of me that made me that crazy fun person. It was gone. It was dying. It had been replaced by what everybody else needed me to be. And I mentioned something about, I'm mentally bored. I told my husband that. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I told him I'm bored. And he's like, well, if you're so bored, why don't you write a book then? Thinking like he's being a smart aleck and it's never going to happen, right? Well, guess what? It happened. And I'm not sure if he liked that fact that he kind of made a joke and it became a reality. But you know what? I went there because somewhere I think all my suppressing of my creativity, it started to bubble up and boil up inside of me. And when I put that first pencil down, I knew it became like Gabrielle and her studies in my book. Writing became my disease, and it was like this soul-saving mission, right? And so anyway, 5 months later, I had this incredible story that I thought was incredible anyway, and I felt alive. Just I could feel that the fire had started again. That light that I had felt for so many years that was dimmed had brightened so brightly that I couldn't look back. I couldn't see the past. I could only see my future.
I think that's absolutely amazing. One of the things that I'm a big believer of is everything happens for a reason. And, the different circumstances that we go through in our lives, the different things that we encounter and the different hardships we encounter, it all contributes to us continuing down a path that we're being meant to, lead. Exactly. And I think, you can derail destiny sometimes if you really want to, but I do think that we're destined for certain things. And for you, it really seems apparent that writing is part and parcel of the destiny that you have before you. And that's really cool. I think that's just really great.
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that. I got a note from a really great friend of mine that I haven't seen in so long, and she sent me a note because she just bought both my books, and she's like, it was bound to happen. You already did this, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And she's like, the whole time I knew you. The way you acted, the way you looked at life, and the way you the colors of the world were so much different. I'm not exactly sure what she said, but she just explained that it was just the next step to who I was anyway, and because like I had already been living that kind of a world. Obviously I lived in my own head quite a bit. I think that's what she's trying to say, and that I was a little bit special at times. But you know what? People either loved me or hated me for it, and I guess that's the same in the world of writing. They'll either love your writing or they'll hate it.
Yeah.
So, but it was kind of neat for her to actually say, you know what? This was just going to happen anyway. It was already there. It just took form now.
Well, that leads me into the next question. Then is who have you found in your life is your biggest support as far as your writing goes?
I would say my daughter, my oldest daughter. She she gets to tears when she talks about it, like, you know, because I've never really had a whole lot of self-confidence. You know, and her and I, we've been through some pretty big, some pretty hard times, her and I, and we made it through and stuff. And you know, even her growing up as a teenager was a struggle at times, but you know, we made it. She's one of my best friends now, and I'm hers. And I don't know, whenever she talks to me about what I've done, because sometimes I don't even realize what I've done, and she's like, "Mom, you've got 2 books. Like, you're amazing. Like, you're." And to me, to hear my daughter that I've struggled with, but I adore beyond the stars, to tell me how proud she is of me, makes me just, yeah, she rocks. She's pretty awesome.
That is really cool. That is really cool.
I think so.
It's really important for writers to have a good support system. I try really hard not to fall into the whole writer stereotype of, you know, being all angsty and, you know, life is full of hatred and blood and vengeance and all that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, you got to admit, you know, a lot of people have that perception as far as authors are concerned. You know, we're all just sequestered away in a room somewhere with our liquor and our cigarettes, you know, and hoping that we can make something out of things.
That depends on the
know?
day, though.
But yeah, exactly. But I try, you know, there are days where the angst gets to me, you know, and then there are days where I take that angst and I put it into the book, you know. So
oh my gosh, yeah, that, you know, that's the best fuel. It is the best fuel.
It really is. Yep. Yeah. I again, you know, the life experiences that we have, you know, they contribute a lot they get put a lot into the books that we write. You know, at least I know that's the way it is for me. If you know, when people read my books, for instance, they get a very emotional experience because one of the things that I've tried to focus really hard on is using it as a catharsis for different emotional experiences that I've had through my life. I've been through, you know, hell and back, to say the least. And so I always say I've kind of experienced everything that it's possible for a human to experience aside from death, you know, and it's, you know, it's kind of that way. But I think that the experiences that I went through led me to become a better writer because it gives me the impetus to put those kind of things into the books that I write. You know, the characters, I'm in their head so much, and I'm describing every, you know, emotional feeling that they're having and the reactions that they're having to the situations and so on and so forth. And if it wasn't for the experiences that I went through, I don't think I'd be nearly what I am with it.
No, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Like, don't get me wrong. Some people are just gifted, and you know they've had rainbows and butterflies their whole life,
yeah,
which is great. Yeah, kudos to them. You know, yay. But you know, not everybody lives that kind of a life, and I think, and not every great writer, like I said, has a bad life. Yeah. It's just, I think sometimes when people do go through things, like you said, it does help bring you to that character, and it does help you feel exactly how they feel, and because you know how they feel because you've been there, and you can bring that real life experience to the words. Like you can smell even the smells at that time in your life. You can bring that forward. So you can bring all, like even the darkest of darkness, you can make them see in that dark. You know, you can make them feel the fear or the rapture or whatever it is that you felt at that moment because you were there.
Exactly. Kade, you're right on track with me. I love it. This has just been a great show so far. I've really been enjoying it so far. And I have some other things that I wanted to bring up. So,
oh, no. Is this going to be scary? Because, you know.
It's going to be scary. So
awesome.
What would you say in your books that you've written, or whether the ones published or the ones that you're currently writing or you know, short stories or whatever, what would you say is the best thing that you've written?
Oh, wow. I don't know. That is a toughie, eh? I don't know. I'm like, I've written a lot of poetry and stuff and songs, and now I'm into books. And I have to say, you know, I don't know yet. I don't know yet, because every book that I write and every story that I write, I don't know. They're so special because I'm inside these books, and that kind of leads me to the reason. Actually, one of the reasons why I'm writing these books is because I'm not going to be here forever. I wish, like if I could find a vampire that could bite me, I'm all over it, right? But I know I'm not going to be here, and I got a lot of little munchkins that might miss me someday, or not. It depends on how bad I treat them, and But I wrote it because someday maybe one of them will miss me, and all they have to do is pick up my book, or two of them, or whatever, and open the pages, and their mom's always going to be there with them. She's always going to be there because all her thoughts and the way she thinks and her beliefs, like a lot of my beliefs in, I'm not religious by means. I'm very, very spiritual. And sometimes the way I think and look at life are in these books, and they'll see that, and I hope they'll see it, and I hope they'll feel me beside them as they read the words that I have spoken and written down for them.
I like that answer.
My legacy to them.
I like that answer, and that's sort of how I've done things with my own too. I leave them as a legacy for my own kids.
Exactly
is how I gear myself for it, and that's a really good answer. I like that. You kind of dodged on it, but you got it back to it. That was a really good answer for it.
Yeah, I kind of get distracted sometimes. Like I'm really proud of myself that I haven't really forgotten what the words are coming out of my mouth. I get a little nervous and I get off track a bit, but hey, I'm hanging in there so far.
That works. So, what would you say is your favorite genre to read? Not necessarily to write, but to read.
Right. Well, I kind of I don't know what you would call Sarah J. Maas's books, especially The Court of Thorn and Roses. Because I think they're high fantasy. When you have like a different world and fairies, and they're kind of like Earth, but they're not like the way we know it. I don't know. Is that like epic fantasy?
I think that'd be
fantasy?
Epic. Yeah, epic fantasy kind of thing.
So anyway, right now, like I used to love, actually I still love Stephanie Meyer. I love all things supernatural, like powers and magic and all that stuff. But I really fallen in love with Sarah J. Maas's Court of Thorn and Roses series. The way she writes and her world building is just, it makes me want to write better. I don't want to be her because nobody can be her.
Right.
But I would like to someday stand beside her in when it comes to writing. So yeah, epic fantasy, high fantasy. Yeah, I really like it because there's so much freedom there. There's so many unbounded adventures. It can be anything you want it to be.
I like that too. Yeah, that's one of my favorite genres. I like I love post-apocalyptic stories as well. I've always been kind of a fan of the what would happen if crap hit the fan sort of situation,
right.
Which is something that we talk about frequently on our shows here, by the way, folks. But anyways, but I like to read that kind of thing. I love science fantasy, where it's kind of a blend between like magic and modern day kind of things. One of my favorite role-playing games to play is Shadowrun, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that one or not, but
no.
it's sort of I think cyberpunk with magic would be a good way to describe what Shadowrun is like. It's a great role-playing game. There's some really great books for it out as well, which I highly recommend everybody out there read. But yeah, that's sort of like what I gravitate towards to read. It's not necessarily what I write, but it's what I usually gravitate towards to read. What I write though is more supernatural elements with modern day kind of thing most of the time, though I do write science fantasy once in a while. That's what the Takik series is. It's science fantasy sort of a genre. It's an alien world that's being invaded by alien overlord invaders sort of thing, but the people that they are invading and enslaving are elves. So it's sort of blending genres there, and I don't know if people like that or not, but hey, it is what it is.
Why not? That sounds cool to me.
I was actually inspired to write that story, that series. The main character in it is mute. She can't speak, but she kind of can, like one or two words, but the words get caught in her throat and she can't get them out. And she can communicate though with things of the natural world. So the trees, the plants, the bugs, that kind of thing. They can actually, she can hear them speaking to her. But I was inspired to write that because I have a child that has severe autism, and for a long time he couldn't speak. He did speak, and then he lost his ability to speak. So the experiences that we had with him kind of inspired me to write the main character of that series and sort of put what I saw happening with him into that. So again, kind of going back to the, being inspired by real life kind of things, it was a very cathartic sort of thing for me to write. But yeah, anyways, enough about me.
No, absolutely. No, it's true. It's well, writing itself is so healing, right? Because you can disappear from the real world, but it's almost like you take your angst and stuff we spoke about before, and you use it for fuel to push the stories, push or just give energy to the stories, because you're so full of it yourself dealing with the real world, and you push it through a portal where it transforms into a different type of energy, a productive energy.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're using it sort of as that impetus to make things better. Clear out the dust a little bit, the dust bunnies away a little bit.
Oh my gosh, yes, yeah. Well, people meditate, right?
Right.
People sit and they do aum and all that crazy nonsense that I can't do. I'm really envious, but I can't do that.
You were mentioning about the using the treadmill and the music. That is meditation. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, anything that kind of breaks you away from your inner self, and kind of shuts the outside world off, that is, a form of meditation. It really, without doubt. I'm not one of those that can, sit in front of a candle and om my way to a meditative state. I have to use music for mine. It sort of sends me into that mode. So
yeah.
I'm behind.
I did
you on
that one time. I went with I have a few people I hang out with, and we tried to do a meditation, and it wasn't a very long one because, we just starting out, and we sat through this meditation, and it's just going on about clearing your mind and all this crap. And after it was done, I look around and everybody's like, "Oh, that was so peaceful. I didn't think of anything. It was so quiet." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" I said, I had like car crashes going on, bright lights and big explosions. Where were you guys? So yeah, it doesn't really work for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. My wife, she's not a meditator either. Anytime that she tries to meditate, she falls asleep. So it's just
see, I would even take that, but no, I have
Well,
yeah.
With 5
Told
kids,
you I was special.
With 5 kids, you take any opportunity you can get to have a nap, right?
Yeah, I haven't napped. Yeah, no, let's not go there. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so you kind of answered this one a little bit already, but if you had to write in a genre outside of your norm, what would it be? Would you go with that kind of epic fantasy sort of world, or would you go in a different direction?
That's kind of a difficult question for me, because I'm sitting right now, because eventually my series is gonna end, and I'm either gonna have to do spin-offs of it and all that, which I have ideas for. But I also have an epic fantasy in my head that I really am excited to do. I have another urban fantasy thing that kind of goes with aliens kind of deal, and I have another one that's post I don't know, it's down the road when the computers really start to take over, and And then I have one that's crashed in between fantasy and sci-fi, like you. So, you know, I don't know. It's like I have all kinds, like, and then I have a real world book that I want to write, and I have a nonfiction I want to write, and I have a spiritual book I want to write. So I don't know. It's so hard. I don't know.
Waiting for that telepathic keyboard, damn it.
Oh, I know. But it's so cool to have options, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm so excited to go, like, okay, now I have, like, I don't know, 15, 16 other options to do. Like, I would be terrified to sit there and go, now what? I have no idea what to do now.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm with you on that one. I've got like just in the Black Rose Files stories alone, like it's a series of stories that are taking place within one small town called Tanglewood, and each of the stories has a different main character associated with it, but the character that remains the same basically is the town itself. And creating that kind of gave me leeway to be able to explore a lot of different directions, but still keep it within the same motif, the same kind of storyline. So I think I'm lucky with that one, but I've always got, like lists of different things that I've got ready to write that are there in my head screaming at me to come out, and I just never have time to get them all down.
I know. It's like chaotic bliss, right? It's like torturous, euphoric. I don't know. It's like you're caught right between a rock and a hard place, But it's fun there. I love it there. I like that world.
It's the best place to be when you're a writer. Really, it is.
It is.
Because there are so many times in our lives where we feel dry, and that dryness is a horrible experience when you're an author. It is. I've been there.
Yeah. I don't want to go there.
I've been there,
not
and I don't
interested to go there at all.
I don't plan on being back there anytime soon. That's why I keep writing things down, ready to plan out.
It's true, though. It's true. Like, that's the thing. For me, I guess, and people have asked me, "What do you do with writer's block?" I said, "I don't know. I don't get writer's block because anytime I get like stressed out and worried about, I just let it go because I find if you force it, the more you force something to work, the more it will go, no, sorry, no, it's not happening. And then it makes more angst, and then it just is bad. So instead of going that direction, I just go, okay, time to daydream, time to go somewhere new, time to do something else. Mm-hmm. And that's when you'll get those little bubbles or those little images that pop into your head just as a speck of light. And the next thing you know, you've got a main character, you've got somewhere they're going, you've got some kind of journey that they need to go on, and you're like, wow, that's so cool, right? From a little blip, because you don't push it, you don't force it, you let it come to you.
Yep, exactly. A lot of times when I feel like I'm kind of getting a little bit towards that block area in like the main project that I'm working on, I'll turn around and maybe write like a little flash fiction story, a little 1,000 word story or something like that. I can just out, and it's done.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times doing it, that is enough for me to be able to go back to that main project again and look at it from fresh eyes, even if it's only been a couple hours. But it gave my mind something else to focus on for a short period of time. There are. You were talking about the spiritual beliefs. I'm the same way. I'm not religious in any way, but I am definitely a spiritual person, and I've done a lot of different research into comparative religions and all of that. And one of the things that the Hindu religion looks at is this idea of periods of time where there are creation and destruction, and so you have like a period of years where the universe is focused on creating things. Creative force is happening, and then there are times where it's about destruction. And if you look at life, it works much the same way. There are periods like of time where right now we're in winter here in America. So this period of time is more about destruction, but it's not really a destructive process. It's about letting everything have a rest for a few minutes.
I was just going to say that it's resting. It's
right.
Resting. It's yes.
So that then that creative energy has something new to work with. And that's sort of, I think, what we as authors kind of need to do ourselves, is give ourselves that moment of rest, whether that's writing something else or listening to some music or, taking a week off or whatever. That period of rest really does need to happen. And then when you're done, boy, you can burst forth with a lot of creative energy.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree. Definitely. You have to, I think, because you can burn yourself out pretty quick if you let yourself.
Yeah.
And you can let the people, I find the people around you can burn you out pretty quickly if you let them, right? So you have to give yourself rest. You have to give yourself a moment not filled with self-loathing. You have to block out and put your bubble up so that the people, and they don't do it intentionally. I don't think. I would hope not.
Some do.
But there's some people that, they're not quite as happy about what you're doing as you are, and they can go out of their way to let you know.
Yeah.
But sometimes you gotta, just take it with a grain of salt and go have a drink.
Well, I'm lucky that my wife, my spouse, is my biggest supporter. She's, again, like I mentioned earlier, she's the one that proofreads everything for me and checks to make sure that I'm doing everything that, needs to be corrected and all of that kind of stuff. Because, well, when you're blind, a lot of times you miss a lot of that kind of stuff. But she's my biggest support system.
Maybe a couple.
Yeah, she's my biggest support system, though. She's always been, right there, helping to push me along to make sure that, I'm getting the time that I need to do it, and the the energy, the positivity from her is just amazing. I can't thank her enough for everything that she's done for me, not just in writing, but in everything. I gotta say, Valentine's Day is coming up, but anyways. So.
No. Hey, that's what you want. Hey, that's that little thing in there. I remember you, honey.
Yeah.
No, she sounds like a dream. Absolutely. Yeah. You're really lucky.
I found out. See, I had two wives before that, both of them were very destructive as far as my writing goes. I mean, literally, one of them threw everything that I had written into a bonfire, thinking that she was helping me
Holy
out,
crap.
to abandon my dreams and all that.
Divorce her right quick, eh?
Yeah, that one didn't last very long. But and what I found out is that my wife Jolene, she ended up finding some of the things that I had written, and she made multiple copies of them all, put them into hidden locations so that nothing could ever happen to them again, so I would never have to go through something like that again. So I mean, even before I realized it, she was already supporting me, and that was during a period of time where I had given up writing completely and said, nope, I'm not doing this anymore, because you get disheartened when something like that happens twice. It's like,
yeah,
I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to have my heart broken by having it all destroyed again. So
no, that's horrible. That is like sacrilegious.
Yeah, it was probably the most evil thing that's happened, as far as encountering people goes, to me. But anyways, enough of the depressive stuff.
The doom and gloom, yeah.
But
she is still living, right? No?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm just checking.
Yep, definitely. So we're coming up short on time here. We do need to hit our break, and I know that you wanted to disappear at around this time, but before you do wander off into the universe, I wanted to give you a chance to get out the links for everything that you've got. Where can people find your work and buy your books and all of that kind of good stuff?
Well, I'm on Facebook under Kade Cook, and my Facebook book page is The Covenant of Shadows. I am on Twitter at Cove of Shadows. I'm on Pinterest under Kade Cook. I have a WordPress blog under Kade Cook Books. My work, I just recently pulled everything back and put it into KU to see what would happen there. It's more of an experiment than anything else. So I'm on Amazon and KU, and I am pleased to announce that I do have an Audible book out for Gray, and I am going to be now in the process of doing the audio book, for CALICO. Beth Thomas is the beautiful voice behind that, and she's already given me chills and tears in my eyes listening to her read my words. And I do have a couple of little YouTube channels I do. One is called Shadow Talkers and the Covenant of What? And that's just a bunch of fun challenges I do to, I'm a real person. I like to have fun and I like to laugh a lot. And if I can do that, I will. And And my Kade Cook YouTube has new book reviews I'm starting to do, and just silly little things like that. So if you just look up Kade Cook, I think there's a Kade Cook. He's a little boy who does cooking. That's not me. Just saying.
Well, that works. That works. And we'll make sure that all of the goodies are linked up on the archive for this show, which everybody can find at openeyesnetwork.com or on youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. Make sure you guys go on over there and you can click the links when you when the show's over. Kade, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before you leave, I ask this of every guest. Don't think that it's weird. It is a little weird, but I ask this of every guest that comes on the show. If you had, let's say that this is the last time anybody ever hears from you again, what is one thing that you want everybody out there in the world to hear or to understand? Like, what would you say is Kade's final message?
Never give up hope. There's always hope, no matter what. Just look for it. It's there. Most of the time, it's in yourself. So find
That's a good one.
Hang on to it, and shine brightly.
That's a good one. I like that. Kade, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We definitely appreciate you being here, and I would love to have you back on again in the future when you get book 3 out. Let me know, and I'll bring you back in.
Oh, I'm all over that, Ira. I will shout it from the rooftop.
Sounds awesome. Thank you, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you too, Ira. I much appreciate this guy. You are awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye. So there you guys go. Kade Cook, really awesome author, really great lady. I love her to death. She's awesome. We're going to have her back on again in the future. We're going to go ahead and hit a break here real fast, and when we come back, I'm going to get into some other things. Got some other topics to talk about this evening before the show is over, so make sure you guys stick around. Call in 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Skype line is JDA Film, and as always, we're over in the chat room at LNMRadioNetwork.com. Come on over and join us. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
Tragic devastation drove them underground. Abject desperation brought them back out again. Their world had changed. Alien creatures greeted them with misery in tow and enslavement in mind. Into this world a girl was born. Made mute by a mistake of birth, Aylin's inability to communicate with others of her kind was absolute. But natural things, animals, trees, the softly creeping things in the night, were open to her and had many things to teach her, including how to save her world from those beings that held her people in thrall. Aylin's first Silent Steps are just the beginning. Silent Steps is the first book in the Takik Cycle trilogy. Aylin is a young girl caught in a world that she is unable to communicate with, trapped between her people and the monstrous creatures that enslave them. With each step she takes, she comes ever closer to her destiny. Aylin has been thrust into the center of a power play for the control of her people, swept into a tide of events that will change the face of her planet forever. Purchase Silent Steps now at any major retailer worldwide, or online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Neely Worldwide Publishing. You can also order a signed copy
at Ira Robinson's website, originalworlds.com.
The LNM Radio Network offers a chat room for you, the listener, to connect with others whom are interested in the topics and guests that the LNM Radio Network brings to you. During the live shows, the hosts will even visit the chat room and chat with you, the listener. Click on the big red Chat and Listen button at the top of the website and join us. No subscription is needed at either lnmradionetwork.com or latenightinthemidlands.com.
The LNM Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information and subscribe today. Information on becoming an LNM subscriber can be found at the top of latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of latenightinthemidlands.com and help us help you.
LNM fans and late nighters around the world, have you captured something on that photo or video of yours? Send in your photos and videos of ghosts, orbs, UFOs, Planet X, or just about anything content related by submitting them to the Late Night in the Midlands Facebook group or fan page, or you can submit them on Twitter using hashtag LNM Radio. And if you would rather stay anonymous, then email them to us at mv@latenightinthemidlands.com. We will share them at our new fan page on the LNM website and may even ask you to come on air a few minutes and tell us about your photo or video. Late Night in the Midlands. We're building a bridge to the truth and beyond.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson, and you can join us tonight if you want to. 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Skype line is JDA Film. And as always, we're over in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. I figured Arion Age of Shadows was the perfect song to play for the Covenant of Shadows with Kade Cook there earlier. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the show so far. And we're being joined now by another guest, and we're going to bring him on here in just a second. If you guys want to go to the archive of our shows, remember they're over at openeyesnetwork.com. And if you're interested in any of the books that I publish, I would love for you guys to check them out. You guys can find them on my website, originalworlds.com or neelyworldwidepublishing.com. And speaking of Neely Worldwide Publishing, we have Daryl joining with us as well. So Daryl, hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, hey, hey.
It's always good to hear from you, Daryl, and I'm glad that you were able to call in tonight, as opposed to last night. You didn't get a chance to call in because the ache was a little bit too much on you.
Oh, y'all were trying to put me down last night.
I was indeed. Well, I'm not out to take everybody off tonight. We're going to have a nice, gentle, calmer Ira tonight, and yeah, it should be fun, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We
Sure.
believe you, Ira. Let's see what you're going to pull on us today.
Well, the reason why I wanted to have you come on here with me was because of something that I ran across. Now, earlier today, for disclosure purposes here, folks, Daryl and I were having a conversation on the phone, and we were talking about some of the crazy things that have been going on in the world and how, people are just, it seems like there's some kind of weird virus or something that's going on with people, just making them insane. And so in light of that, I ran across something that's actually being explored right now, Daryl.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear about this one.
There are actually, there's a couple of, it's a group of scientists that are working on trying to prove the theory that human consciousness actually exists because of viral interference at some time in our prehistory.
I can actually believe that because you remember the first thing that existed was bacteria.
Uh-huh.
They're getting smart. They're getting smart.
So what they're going with basically is this idea that human beings, we were much more akin to animals, conscious maybe, but not actually, of sentient consciousness. Although I disagree with that. I think that animals are as well. But, going by the mainstream theories of things. But their idea basically is that a virus at some point in time may have had interference with the way that humans developed, and it actually caused things to tweak in our brains in a certain way so that connections are made to make our consciousness become the way that it is, the thinking processes and such that we have. And basically their theory with it is because viruses can interfere with the synapses in the brain, that interference pattern that's created by the viral infections that can occur cause changes in the brain's chemistry to happen.
Almost like people on that Pokemon Go game, huh?
Ah, yeah. Well, I think they have another virus of some kind on that one.
I mean, when you look at it, they've discovered that the tapeworm actually thinks. It knows what it's doing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They also know that bacteria itself is a living organism. Living organisms are not just mass spreading and they do communicate amongst themselves. Thing is, we just don't have the intelligence to recognize their communication level or the way they communicate. Mm-hmm. It could be, that mind thought transfer thing, or it could be in a communication form such as speaking that we can't hear or understand.
Right.
So when you think of a virus or a bacteria, come on, people, you got to realize that, bacteria and all these little organisms have to communicate somehow or another.
And I don't think they not only communicate, but I think that, as an example, the person that we are, these meat suits that we're wearing, only makes up about 10% of who we actually are. The other 90% is made up of bacteria, viruses, protoplasms, amoebas, on and on and on, all of these different colonies of creatures that we have living within and upon us. We're just carriers for these things. And I think that there is definitely something to the idea that I've tried to explain for years, that bacteria, these different colonies that we're carrying within us, they have different needs, and they will transmit those needs to us as different sensations or different cravings and that kind of thing. And one of the things I think is that there are certain bacteria or viruses or whatever that are, within us that are pushing people's minds into thinking in different ways to add stressors. Because if you remember, think about it, stress creates a certain chemical environment that's within the body. So there are certain viruses or bacteria that flourish with that stress chemistry that's going on, and others are diminished. So maybe there is something to the idea that all of us, kind of out here in the world today are going as crazy as we are because there are these viruses and so on and so forth that are pushing us to become that way to make themselves flourish more.
And then you think a little further, you think about the chemtrails with the aluminum and other chemicals coming out of the sky into the water supply, onto the earth, onto our skin. And the aluminum is a communication neutralizer to the brain. Therefore, the bacteria or the virus will be in control. Ooh, man, we come up with a good theory, aren't we?
And maybe in some kind of weird way, those colonies within us have tweaked people's thinking in a certain way to think that aluminum in the chemtrails needs to be there so that they can flourish more. So they've actually, changed the way that people think that are in the power to make these things occur. You see what I mean? I mean, it's like, when you get a craving for something sweet or something chocolate or something like that, there's bacteria that are within you that are feeling that need. That's what they're existing upon or what they feed upon. So they give you that craving. You're forced to feel that craving because of the chemistry in your body. They inject those needs within you and cause your body to crave that item. Your mind will then do everything that it can do to convince you that you need that piece of chocolate or you need that something else sweet or whatever it may be. And I'm using that as an example because that's one of my biggest downfalls myself. So I'm
don't worry, I just had a Snickers bar.
I'm throwing out my guilty. I'm throwing out my guiltiness there. But yeah, no, I think that there really is something to this idea. Because if you look around, it explains a lot of why people are acting in the way that they do,
But you know something? I wonder if we're going to get credit for this theory that we've come up with. I mean, I hope some scientist out there puts our name in the book.
That's Ira Robinson and Daryl Neely.
Yes, don't worry about it. We right here. We look, you may have done the research, but we take the claim to the theory. Because here's a good way of looking at it, and I think it's kind of weird, but I'm going to use the dog and the Pavlov experiment and experience on it. Pavlov would always give the stimulus to the dog. Well, the dog might not be hungry right now. So you show the dog a bone. Nah, I'm not hungry right now. But you show that dog maybe something already cooked. Hold on. Why would a dog want to eat something already pre-cooked? It can't cook. But, hey, I've tasted it before. It's something I need. I want. I crave it. And the example I'm trying to use with it is that inside the dog, he has the knowledge of a cooked food. Now, if the dog has the knowledge of it, there must be some enzyme, bacteria, something living within it that can use that cooked flavor, food, whatever it may be that it needs from it to survive, i.e. humans with tapeworms.
Sure, there are different chemical compounds that are created when you're cooking food as opposed to when you're eating the raw food.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
And with that idea of being effective, that would also say that I wonder what most of those crazy idiots out there are eating. Are they going to McDonald's? Are they going to Burger King? Are they sitting at Starbucks?
Well, if they're plantkin, they're definitely not eating vegetables, right?
Right. Are these women running around with their pussy hats on vegetarians, or are they? Maybe there's a stimulus that's creating the identity that they're creating. I mean, look at, the political stance today. I mean, you got your woman in California whose name I would not say, Nancy Pelosi, and she's running around with her smirk on her face and grim and everything, but you could tell something's wrong with her.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
She's not a happy person, yeah.
She's not happy. Maybe it's something she didn't eat. Maybe there's something, or maybe the bacteria has infected her mind to the point where it has taken control of her body, i.e. some Twilight Zone or some Outer Limits series TV show, where they had the bacteria that took over the people's bodies because the people weren't giving the bacteria that was inside of them something to fight for, live for. The bacteria wanted human life, but it wanted to live peacefully within the human, but on the other side, the humans weren't giving it what it needed, so it had to take over. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's the show I was thinking about also.
Yeah,
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Well, I was going to say the idea is sound because we don't know what's in the food today, really. When you go out and eat, you don't know what's in it, and you don't know what's in the water. So people, be a little watchful. And if you question something more than once, like the sanity of someone, most likely they are insane. And they got some bacteria controlling them. I mean, that could be the alien process of taking over the world, too.
It could be. They might be using the bacteria as a method to colonize their own genetic information into human beings and drive us down a pathway that they want us to go. The two quite technical papers that I'm talking about here, they center around a neuronal gene called ARC, which uses a process very similar to viruses to encode genetic information which passes between synapses in the brain. It's still a mystery what role that genetic information plays, but neuroscientists have observed that synapses die if this process breaks down. By tracking down the evolutionary roots for this gene using comparative genomics, scientists have claimed that ancient viruses could have transmitted viral ARC genes to early humans, where they inserted themselves into the human genome and eventually evolved to enable our higher brain functions. Now, it's a pretty interesting thought, to think about how consciousness actually, came about in the way that it did. I'm more of the mind of science kind of takes things a little bit backwards. I think that consciousness is actually the first step, and then out of that consciousness comes matter, or comes the mind, and out of that mind then comes the matter that we're exploring here in this frequency zone that we call the universe. But that's just my own weird take on things, and I have to be weird. But anyways. Just there's a lot of things that we're being led down the garden path towards, I think, and it's some pretty scary things that are perhaps coming in the future. And one of the things that I also wanted to talk about tonight, going into strange directions, and Daryl, I know this is something that you've thought quite a bit about, is what happens if the crap hits the fan. And one of the reasons why I have been thinking about this, I've been thinking about writing a post-apocalyptic book, so the kind of this has been on my mind a little bit. And I also ended up just rewatching the series Jericho. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch? Really great show. They deserved a lot more than 2 seasons. But anyways, so I rewatched that, and I've been kind of thinking post-apocalyptic kind of situation. Me and Jolene have been watching The 100 lately as well. And just it leads you into certain pathways of thinking, it leads you into a direction. But there was a movie that I guess movies and TV shows, they've tried to explore what would happen if, the crap hits the fan and we end up kind of in a post-nuke kind of a situation. And maybe, I know a lot of people right now are having the fear of that coming at them, whether they are, seeing things politically happening, where got arguments going on with North Korea and what happens with, with the Russia situation because we keep pushing their buttons, I mean, they're kind of poking the bear, to say the least, and it's not really the smartest of ideas. So with that in mind, with a situation like that, people, they think that they can survive it and still have the world basically be the way that it is right now. And it's not really going to be that way, is it?
No, it can't be that way because people are crazy. They are insane. People do not believe in working together in unity. Well, a majority do not believe in working together in unity to create or to take a parcel of land and feed 20 where you'll be seeing people running around trying to raid stores just to eat the food instead of raiding stores to get seeds. Yeah, that's a good thought. Why would you raid a store to get food? No, they try to do like they do during riots and try to get television.
Right.
I'm sorry. I've seen too many riots on TV over the years, been in one, and I'm going to have to ask you, why would you go get a television?
Yeah, exactly. Going in and getting the sneakers, it makes no sense. I'd be raiding the food stores, just to try to get what I could in stock. But when it comes to these kind of situations, there have been actually a couple of really good movies that have been made, and I've been thinking about them quite a bit here lately, maybe rewatching them at some point in time. One of them, I don't know if you've ever heard of this one, Daryl. It's kind of an obscure movie. It was made by the BBC, if I remember right. It's called Threads. Have you ever seen that one?
I've heard of it, and that came out back in the, 93, right?
No, it was actually, I think, in 86 or something around in there. It was like a
You're right.
Yeah.
Because that was the only time I was going through my major phase of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Yep. There's that one, and then there's The Day After as well. Do you remember that one? That was the
I remember
made-for-TV
that
movie. They actually played it on ABC and everything. It was, I can't remember the main guy's name. But anyways, that one, when it comes to a lot of the post-apocalyptic movies, they try to take things like way in the future, like, what happens 100 years or 200 years or whatever after the event ends up occurring. But with these two movies in particular, they went like with what happens those few moments after it occurs, and I think that both those movies, they did a really good job sort of describing what things would be like in those first couple of days, chaos, to say the least,
Well, I wouldn't say the word chaos. I would say that the religious-minded individuals will go insane because they'd be looking for something that didn't show. Then you have the institutionalized crazies that are out there, like I said, trying to get televisions instead of getting batteries and seeds and camping gear, and matches instead of lighters. Then you have those few that are going to try to rob a bank. Rob a bank?
Yeah.
Come on. People need to have an idea of how to survive. I mean, that's the biggest problem we have. We have all this TV imagery of survival, and people really don't know what the hell to do. I mean, bunkering down is the first thing you do.
Well, the thing that concerns me is that, okay, if we were looking at the situation like back in the 70s or 80s even, people by and large, they might be able to get through it. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be terror. I mean, everybody is going to be out for everybody else kind of thing. But then you take, this situation where we're 30 years ahead of that, and we're seeing the people the way that they are right now. How would they be in that kind of situation? I mean, they would kind of be the first to go, really.
Oh, yeah.
Because
real quick.
So many people out there that have that whole sense of entitlement and it's me and all that. And well, I mean, to put it bluntly, there are a lot of people out there that are very candy ass right now. You know, I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Thank you. Somebody else said it. I mean, you said it 100%. They real sweet. I mean, my biggest argument is when you look at the culture that we're in today versus the 70s. The 70s, you had Vietnam era veterans coming out of war. They knew how to do it without and survive without electricity.
Well, yeah, there's always going to be those certain sects of people that are going to be that way. You know, I mean, they're still that way today. There's so many groups out there that are, you know, very militia minded, you know, and know how to handle themselves, and they'll be okay. What I'm talking about is sort of the general population of people.
Well,
you know,
like they say, get a lot of body bags or start digging ditches, because generally the people that's out there today, I have to go right back with you, what you said. They're very candy ass.
Yeah.
They're soft.
I mean, it's like, you know, back in even during the 70s and 80s or 60s and 70s and 80s era, people knew how to handle themselves, at least to some point, you know, and they could survive a situation if something came up. You know, how many people today, you know, growing up today, how many 20-year-olds today have spent time out in the woods camping for weekends upon weekends upon weekends? How many have gone fishing or you know, things along those lines? And how many have sat around? And how many have sat around playing video games every weekend? You know, I mean, there are life skills that can be learned through the experiences that you go through. And I'm afraid that most people today, especially of the under 30 generation, never have had those kind of experiences. They've always been so sheltered away from everything that isn't a video game or TV or, you know, whatever, the cell phones. You know, I mean, you lose your cell phone, you're pretty much out the window. You know, I mean, they don't know how to handle themselves. So how would they be able to handle a situation, you know, in today's day and age with, you know, 1,000 nukes hitting the United States or everybody goes flying around like that, you know? How are they going to handle themselves? I really don't think they can.
Let me be honest with you. You ready? You don't have to launch a nuke to make these people go crazy and go through genocidal and psychological.
Hell, all you got to do is turn off the satellites for the cell phones.
No, I make it even worse than that. Turn off the electricity.
Well, that too.
A neutron bomb. That's all they got to do.
An EMP.
One neutron.
Yeah. Some kind of an EMP situation. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. They would do it real quick. You don't have to kill everybody. All you got to do is turn off the electricity, and these people will not know what to do. Hold on. Make it even worse. Turn off the water, and you'll see them going crazy.
Crazy Cajun.
They don't know how to use the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. People don't know, for example, that if you have a situation like this, you know, where you're in kind of that desperate kind of situation, they don't know that you don't pee anywhere around your campsite, you don't poo anywhere around your campsite, and you don't even really bury it anywhere nearby where you're going to be picking food or anything along those lines, because you're contaminating it. People don't understand that if you got food, don't leave it on the ground, because the bears are going to come along and say, oh, hey, there's some food right here. And not only that, there's some food in the tent right there, too. I'm going to munch on them, too. You know, I mean, they just don't know. You know, they don't know because they've never had the experiences to their own detriment. You know, it's disturbing.
Just give them a video game, okay, Ira? Give them some Duck Hunt.
You know, Crazy Cajun there in the chat room, he said when he went through survival training, he learned how to eat everything, you know, and that there is something right there as well. You know, when you're in a bad situation, in a survival kind of a situation, are you going to pick up that earthworm that you just dug out of the ground and munch on it? Because if you are desperate and you need the nutrition, you're going to go for it. My wife would be one to be like, hell yeah, give it. I'll eat it.
Where's that anthill at?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'll eat whatever, you know, but there are other people that'll be like, no, there's no way I can.
Well, don't worry. I heard that humans taste like chicken.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's some that say it tastes like chicken. There's some that say it tastes like pork. That's why they call us long pigs.
Oh, okay. Can I get that leg over there?
There's a disturbing thought for people that didn't know that human beings, you know, cannibals call us the long pigs. So, Something you learn every day. I don't know if that's really what you intended to learn today, but there you go. Anyways, Daryl.
Class is never ending on LNM Radio Network.
Exactly. We're running short on time here, Daryl, but you got anything that you want to finish up with here tonight?
I just wanted to let you know that your guest that you just had was awesome. She was incredible. You have had every Friday so far some most dynamic authors and individuals as guests, and you've amazed even me. And for Thursday nights, of course, everybody knows, 7 to 9 p.m., Ira and Joe have been hitting the trail of, oh, my gods, and please, somebody call in because this stuff is going to make us insane. They've been hitting the trail on everything. I'm very proud of your shows. I'm very proud of who you are, Ira, not only as an author, but as a person. And I thank you for being the person that you are with your caring heart. And tell Jolene, your mom, and all the family we love them. And support LNM Radio Network because we are family.
Indeed, indeed. Speaking of authors coming on, next week I have Andy Poloquin coming on. I think that's how his name's pronounced. Something along those lines. Poloquin, yeah. Very interesting guy. He's going to be on next week with me on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you guys tune in for that. And as he mentioned there, we'll be back again on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Brothers at Arms with me and Joe, and it should be a pretty interesting show. Daryl, thank you for coming on with me here in this last half hour. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate everything that you do, brother.
Well, thank you very much, Ira. Now I'm going back to eat my chicken.
We had some fried chicken tonight, too. Got it going on. Daryl, why don't you give your web address out real quick for people?
Okay, for anybody interested in being published or desiring to be published, Neely Worldwide Publishing is, and we really are looking for dynamic, good authors that have some oomph in their writing. So if you're interested in us, we're interested in you. You can email us at www.neelyworldwidepublishing@gmail.com or publishing@neelyproductionsinc.com, or is it neelyworldwidepublishing.com? Either one.
All righty. Sounds great. Daryl, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
So there you guys go. Daryl Neely, great guy. And if you guys want to go to the archive of this show, you guys can go to openeyesnetwork.com and check it out. It's also going to be on our YouTube page at youtube.com/c/openeyesnetwork. If you want to send me an email, you can send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com. And on social media, we're everywhere at openeyesnetwork.com. So make sure you guys come on over and like us, subscribe to us, whatever the case may be. We put out new stuff all the time, so make sure you guys join in with us. If you guys are interested in my writings, you guys can go to my website, originalworlds.com. I've got a lot of great stuff available there to read for free, so make sure you guys check that out as well. Next time you guys hear me, I'll be on Sunday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Money and Change, followed by myself with the Positude Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will talk to you again soon. Until next time, keep safe out there and have fun, and thank you, as always, for listening. And thank you, Kade Cook, for coming on tonight. It was a great show.